All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out to 1 Million Cups. Today we have Exis presenting. I just want to say thank you to Field 59 for doing the live stream and Earthling Interactive for sponsoring this week. We don't have a ton going on in the next few weeks. There will be 1 Million Cups next week, but then we have 2 weeks off for the holidays. And next week happens to be our Madison 1 Million Cups first year anniversary. So I would say there will be cake, but I don't know if there will be cake. So if you want to bring cake, that would be awesome. I think we'll start things out today as we usually do with some introductions, and I'll go first. I'm Drew Corson. I'm an attorney at Knight & Boucher, and I do mostly startup and securities work.
I'm Jake Smith. I'm an associate at Generator, working with the core program.
I'm Spencer Fricke. I'm a UW student here.
Steve Claude, co-founder of 32 Auctions, which is a platform for hosting and managing silent auctions.
I'm Tommy Glenn. I work for a State Farm agent on the east side.
Joey Frayne. I work with the entrepreneurship and innovation team at WDC.
I'm Laurel White. I'm the tech reporter for the Cap Times.
I'm EJ Alexandra. I'm starting a company that does software development.
Garrett Lee, founder and co-creator of Woe and Goodpoint, trying to transform goodness that's happening all around us into digital currency.
I'm Amanda Schwegler. I'm a product manager at Earthling Interactive here. We're a firm of about 35 people, and we work with a lot of different companies, helping them develop web applications and mobile applications, and staying with them all the way through business development, business services at the end.
Kurt Peterson, the other co-founder of 32 Auctions.
Kelda Roy, CEO and founder of Open Homes, a virtual real estate brokerage.
Good morning, Sarah Nutty. I'm an organizer of 1 Million Cups. I also manage HR at Catalyze, which is a health IT company here in Madison.
Great, thanks everybody. With that, we'll turn it over to Dale.
All right, hi. Thanks everybody for coming. I guess most of this presentation is one that I pulled from the G-Beta program that I just completed last night. So hopefully I can still remember what I said. We'll see. So our company is Exis. We're a software as a service platform that is basically providing tools to developers to try to really simplify the way that apps have to be written today. So if you're, I guess I'll continue to talk about that. My background, I did my undergrad, double majored in computer engineering, computer science here at UW. Went to industry for a little bit, and I was fortunate enough to work with a professor, Suman Banerjee, in my undergrad. And my first experience with a startup, we were working on a company called Harvest Power Technologies, and we were creating these devices for the power grid in India because it's really flaky. And my first experience was after 3 or 4 months of kind of getting involved with that and being able to bring beer into an office space and that kind of stuff, and that was all fun. I got a phone call that they were pulling the funding, and in 24 hours I was out of a job. So that was interesting. So I don't know why I kind of stuck around and keep doing these things, but I just got the bug, and here I am. So I worked in industry for a little bit, came back, got my master's, and started working with Suman again on another project, and that kind of led into this. So I've been working on a company called Paradrop over the last 2 years. That was a really research-intensive kind of thing, and this product was a particular piece of technology that we kind of scooped out of that and transitioned into a full-blown company. So we just completed the G-Beta program, as I was saying last night. Yeah, that was a really great experience. That was a lot of fun. Met a lot of really cool people. So this is our core team right now. I'm the CEO. As I was saying, this is my second startup, and right now I'm leaving my PhD to pursue this. My co-founder is Mickey. He's our CTO and also a graduate at UW, so actually everybody here is. My wife, Tara Linda, is our business development. She just completed her MBA, and she unfortunately can't be with us this morning. Suman Banerjee is our chairman and kind of an advisor to us, and then a couple other really important mentions, Nick, Lance, and Mike. They're all kind of the core team that really helped me get the product into a reasonable state that it's at now, and so we're in a beta right now. So if you have any questions about anything, please jump in, and I'm interested to see what you think about this. So when I talk about software and what we're doing in particular, for non-developers, we kind of struggled to find a decent way to explain it. So we started comparing software to DNA. And the comparison that we want to make is that the DNA between two people is over 99% identical. So the DNA that makes someone Joe and not Troy, if you're familiar with the generator crew, is really, really small. It's this really small fraction. And that's, when you look at applications at a certain level, it's relatively the same for applications. So it's the features that make an application Twitter and not Facebook. The rest of the components are something that all applications have to have. You're talking about how they communicate, what kind of encryption or security methods that they use. At some level, you're going to find these things across the board. But the interesting thing is that everybody individually kind of walls themselves off and develops these things. And now you've got these proprietary ways of that Facebook does something compared to Twitter, and it leads to problems like we see with Target last year having the credit card problems, or Home Depot, or any numerous different companies that kind of develop their own little technologies, and it can lead to problems if you don't have the right people working on the team. So to kind of take the example a little bit further, we can look at Google, who every day they have to support 3.5 billion requests to their system. Now they have around 30,000 engineers on staff to deal with this, but most of those engineers aren't spending their time dealing with the features that you would see as a Google user. A lot of them are spending their time dealing with those lower level things I'm talking about, the networking, the security, the scalability of actually designing a system that can support 3.5 billion requests. It's a very, very large number of requests. And outside of Google, outside of their 30,000 engineers, they have there's an estimated 18 million engineers worldwide who are trying to release apps and are facing these exact same kind of problems as Google. So it's kind of unfathomable to think that a team of 1, 10, or even 100 developers could solve a problem at a global scale like Google can without as many engineers. And this is kind of whether or not you are following along with the arrows, these are kind of the different categories of systems that we're trying to pull together. So I want to take a second, and you don't have to read what's up on the screen, but this is the last function that I wrote while I was working on my PhD before we started Exis. It's really simple. It sits on the internet, you ask it for data, and it gets it for you. But because it sits on the internet, you can't quite leave it that simple. We had to add a few lines in order to make it work. So these colored sections represent the different portions of networking code that any developer would have to write in order to actually put a function out on the internet. And so this is kind of the communication, the authentication, validating what data was sent to you, because anybody can kind of poke and prod at your system once it's sitting out on the internet. And I remember looking at this, and in our industry, there's usually between 1 and 5 errors in every 100 lines of code that a developer writes. I'd love to say that my numbers are lower, but it's just across the board, it's industry standard. So I quadrupled the number of lines that I had to write in order to put this out. So there's a really good chance that I introduced an error that won't be discovered until we put this in front of real users. And this is a huge problem. So it was kind of at this point where I had this technology, and I saw it as a way that we could solve this problem. So I decided to really kind of run with it. Using our system, the same function looks like this. So what we started to realize is that we could take all of those components, because they're reasonably standardized, we could kind of define what they should look like, and we can actually strip them out of the code. So they're all replaced by this little line on top that a developer just needs to specify, and a little bit of information on our website that they can provide to us, and beyond that they can just write code how it's supposed to be written without thinking about all of these extra components. So we solved the coding problem, and that's really only half the battle. The other aspect of it is that once you've written the code, you have to deploy it out into the world. And this represents, if anybody's familiar with this is Amazon Web Services. This represents the steps that I have to take as a developer every time I want to release a scalable app out into the cloud. And it's an obnoxious list of things that a developer has to go through. And everyone I've ever talked to, nobody's like, oh yeah, like this is an awesome system. Like I just loved doing that. And this is really the simple way to do it. They have probably what equates to like 10,000 pages of documentation that if something doesn't go quite right, you have to start to look through. So it's just a really obnoxious system, and I've heard people kind of say like, I don't want to do this, like I want to change careers because of things like this. So I wanted to fix this too. So we fixed the code, and I wanted to step in and kind of help developers release the scalable app in a simpler way. So from our website, because we're talking about, I want to help the 99% of applications, so we're talking about scalability, security, those kind of things, I wanted to strip all that away so that developers don't have to worry about that. So the same scalable application, the same thing that dizzying maze looked like from Amazon Web Services, we can do it in a couple of steps from our site. And for most applications, this is perfectly fine, and developers no longer have to really worry about what they're doing. So we released our first version to the mobile programming class, 407 at UW-Madison. That was to 75 developers, and there was a few bugs, I'm not going to lie, but they were all things that were well within our control, and I happened to be in California and then Colorado, so I wasn't able to actually be there and make sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. But the feedback was very solid from that. So that fast forwards to this month, we're releasing it to 150 developers, and we've had really good feedback from the people that we've put this in front of. It's led to partnership opportunities with Ionic, so I've spoken with Max Lynch, the CEO of Ionic, and he really likes what we're working on, and he wants to put this in front of his developers, which is a huge group of people, so I'm really fortunate for that. We've also spoken to coding boot camps, because I think that what we're providing is something that really early stage developers or people that are just learning how to program can really utilize. So that's great. Beyond that, if there's any other products that people in the room are thinking about, please forward them to me, and I'd be glad to kind of follow up with that. From a funding standpoint, we've received National Science Foundation SBIR funding, Phase 1 funding, and support that led to support from the WEDC to pursue this effort. And last week, with the open sourcing of Apple's Swift product, we were actually mentioned in the Wired article around that. So from a market standpoint, we help developers across the board, but we had to pick something in particular. So we're starting with mobile app market, which is a $25 billion market, 500,000 developers strong, and solid growth. We're looking at cloud services beyond that. It's a $106 billion industry, and that industry is growing like wildfire. It's 30% annually compared to 5% for the general overall IT space. So that's a huge market that we're hoping to jump into. And that's the presentation that I have. So yeah, I don't know if we want to open it up to questions.
Yeah, and I'll pass the mic around so that we can pick up your voice for the live stream. Throw your hand up if you have a question.
Is this specific languages, specific technologies? Like if somebody wants to take advantage of the tools that you're offering, what do they have to change about what they're doing in order to take advantage?
Yeah, so I'm looking to be agnostic to any kind of language. So a lot of tools that exist that do this today are specific to like the mobile app market, and I didn't want to kind of pigeonhole a product like this. So I really explicitly said I don't care what the language is. Like across the board, we're actually supporting everything. So if you write in Go, Python, or Swift, Node.js, like it doesn't matter across the board. In terms of what you would have to do to get it to work, so we're replacing the typical RESTful HTTP calls that you would have to make with the next generation WebSockets version. So it should be a one-to-one swap for just that communication call. we're looking at ways of kind of working with existing frameworks like Express.js and things like that, so that developers don't even have to do that much work in order to make it function.
What's your revenue model, and where do you see it going in the next year or so in terms of hiring people or needs like that?
Yeah, so the revenue model that we're focusing on right now is it's what's called a platform as a service model. So it's subscription based. It's kind of something that's expected in this market, and that basically means that any developer can come and use our system for free. Once you've released an app out into the world and you're going to start actually generating traffic, that's when we're going to come talk to you and charge you some number of dollars per month. Right now, the revenue model that we're going for, and I think that this, I stopped a little too soon. This is, so here's our revenue model. So essentially, early developers come and play. We're looking at $10 a month for freelancers, so you're releasing an app out into the App Store, and around that range. Enterprise a little bit more, just for full service, including customer support. In terms of what we're looking for, we definitely need to start working more on marketing and sales. So that's something that that now that I'm done with G-Beta, that we're actively going to try to kind of bring in. I'm looking for mentors in the kind of marketing space around there, and hoping to hire at least one other person that has kind of like MBA sales backgrounds sometime in the next year.
Are people who use your product able to see all the back-end code, or is that something you keep hidden? And how is this different from what someone could access in the open source community? Is it that you're pulling everything together in one spot for them?
Yeah, so our technology is actually based on open source technology. There's two big components to that. There's the communication aspect, so how we wire the communication, the messages around between the applications. That's open source, and it's a kind of a newer idea that developers have started to come across in the last couple of years. And what we decided to do was take that, make it more security centric, and then host it ourselves in the cloud, so that anyone can use it. So there's definitely no reason why anyone else couldn't take that component and run it themselves for testing. The other half of it is the platform as a service aspect. So from our website, the reason why you only have to do 3 clicks to launch something is because we're hosting that content for you. Those portions we're kind of still running through how we're going to release that to the community. Some of it is open source, some of it is kind of like our proprietary component. So yeah, we're still in the works with there, but we're really trying to make it so that early stage developers can see as much as they need to without needing to get too deep into the weeds, so to speak, with the code.
Could you talk briefly about your experience with going through G-Beta and what value that added to your company?
Yeah, so I wanted to preface this by saying that I was in a different accelerator over the summer with the previous company that was called Gig Tank in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I'll talk about G-Beta and then also kind of compare that against the other one, if that's all right. G-Beta was an awesome experience. Me being just an engineer coming into kind of a startup world, it was really eye-opening, especially 2 years ago. I was just like, well, I'm a smart guy, I'll figure it out. It's not that simple. It takes a lot of work to bring together products and to think about dealing with developers. And I'm a developer myself, so I'll say we're a very fickle group of people. But the experience was really great. It led me to meet a lot of really cool people in Madison and in the Wisconsin community in general. And I'm really happy with the way that I see the startup community going in here. We 2 years ago tried to start this. Suman Banerjee, my advisor, and I tried to start a company, and I just think back to 2 years ago trying to get funding to now. It's just drastically changed, and I'm really excited to see in another 2 years what that looks like. And the G Beta program, they're awesome because they really help. They kind of challenged me to really focus on the right things. Because at the end of the day, one of my biggest hurdles was I could either hold myself up in a room like I have done for the last several years, and write this new awesome piece of code, and it's complete. Once I'm done, I can check it off and be done. Or I could work on tasks like getting new users and stuff, tasks that there's no end point to them. You're never done doing those things. And so I'd see myself kind of diverting back towards my old way of doing things. But the generator team really helped to help me hone in and kind of focus on working on the right things at the appropriate time. So, yeah.
Who is your target customer? It sounds like whenever you're mentioning the customer, it tends to be early developers or people who are trying to create a small app. Is your tech particularly targeted at that, or could Amazon or Google potentially use your product to deploy one of their apps?
Yeah, so the component that I was mentioning earlier about the communication aspect, when we took that and kind of took it apart and made it more security-centric, we did that specifically for the enterprise space. So we kind of set it up with the foundations in place so that a company like Amazon or Google could utilize our system. But the system itself is pretty complex, and we needed to try to gain traction somehow. So the best people to put that in front of is people that are early developers. So unfortunately, they're not. I'm not expecting that they're going to pay me money, but they're the best people. It's much easier to go to a classroom of people that don't know how to program and say, hey, you can do this really simple thing using our system, than to go try to find like the product manager in Google that may be interested in using what we have. So yeah.
Can you share the funding that you've received and any of your investors, and if you're seeking another round of financing?
Yeah, so the funding that we've received we've received National Science Foundation SBIR Phase 1 funding. That was for $150,000. That's closed in July over the summer, and that allowed us to open up our office. We took that financing, and the WEDC has I think it's called their SBIR Advance program, so we submitted more applications to them about kind of how we were going to really market this product, and that led to $75,000 from the WEDC. Then we took that money back to the NSF. Every time you submit these like grants, it's like if you get something else, they'll give you half of it back. So we're completing another Phase 1B. It's called application for another $30,000. I don't know if we're going to get that one or not. I think we might have missed the deadline. But so that was kind of our starting point of how we're able to open an office and kind of hire some people and do some marketing campaigns, things like that. Right now, we are looking to start up another round. So our runway is into the middle of next year right now. We're very fortunate that a lot of our people are kind of part-time, and they're able to work on it as part of their research through the university because they're grad students. And so I'm able to, our burn rate is a lot lower than a traditional company that would have as many engineers, as many talented engineers as we have. Yeah, we are looking to start up a seed round. It's somewhere, I don't know, can I say numbers? Or is that, okay. Around 400,000, and that would sustain us through, that would allow us to actually hire these people full time so we can really take off running with this, and that'll sustain us through the end of 2016. Our target milestones at that point would be to have 10,000 total users and 5,000 monthly recurring revenue.
You talked about sales and marketing needing, that's where a big focus is going to be. How are you going to be ramping up on that? And also, are there any other major challenges you're facing right now?
Yeah, so sales and marketing, what I'm looking to try to find is someone that can help just kind of hit the pavement and really try to be more of a developer relations kind of person. So someone that can help me go to coding boot camps across the country, just talk to all these different boot camps, see if any of them are interested in at some point potentially like paying for kind of licensing onto the system, so that we can kind of explore that space. Beyond that, we're looking, my very next focus is working with Ionic. So that's kind of been set up, but we need to also kind of do some marketing around that as well. So really trying to bring in people that can kind of help us there. And I'm sorry, what was the second half of your question?
If there were any other major challenges you're facing right now.
Yeah. So the other big thing is that I'm very interested in trying to have people sign up for our beta and try to use it. So we have in Madison, we have kind of a unique, reasonably diverse group of developers that can use our system. But the people that we've really targeted right now are in a specific niche, and that's more of the mobile app space. What I'm really hoping for is to try to find a more kind of heterogeneous group of developers that can kind of poke and prod at things on our beta. So if you're interested, please sign up on the website. It's free, and you can use it. And I've pretty much, we set up Intercom on our website, which is a system where you can send questions to us, and I haven't figured out how to change it so that it'll send me emails instead of actually pinging me at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you're certainly welcome to do that, because as of right now, I'll be up at 2 answering questions. So.
Fantastic. Well, it doesn't look like there are any more questions, so if we could just give Dale a round of applause. Thank you for presenting today. And he'll stick around for a couple minutes after to talk to you one-on-one if you'd like. Thank you all for coming, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.